Hey guys, I want to welcome you to Liftoff.
11,
I want to introduce you to Yuping. Yuping is a sourcing agent, but so much more. She actually was a lawyer in China before she moved to the US and does sourcing for multiple countries around the world. And one of my favorite things about Yuping is she's going to talk about commercial invoices, because you know Amazon asks you for those. So everybody, I'd like to introduce you to Yuping.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for being here today. I want to introduce you to Yuping. She has an incredible story. We're going to ask her some of the most challenging questions you guys run into when it comes to sourcing. She has years and years of sourcing experience, and you have actually an opportunity to meet her in Los Angeles, March 8th to 10th at Ecom 2019. So Yuping, I want to say thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Zach.
And I would love for you to share your story. Like, how did you get to where you are today? I know you've had some vast experience when it comes to sourcing. And before you answer, everyone, I just want you to know, Yuping is not like a sourcing agent who knows a few things and knows a few factories. She understands sourcing at a deep level. She's a very intelligent woman, which you're soon gonna know. And I'm just excited that you're here. I think people are gonna be very excited to learn what you have to share with them.
I worked as attorney in China, and until I was challenged by the ethical issues where I have to choose whether I wanted to continue to practice law or I wanted to choose a different career path. So once I got to US, I worked in a business school, and after the business school, I started to work in the supply chain function, and that was like 20 years ago, and that's how I have started my career in supply chain management, work for different companies, different industries, and I have this, incredible passion to do supply chain to help business to improve their business bottom line, and that I just continue to excel in what I do.
Can you talk a little bit, Yuping, about what are some of your biggest successes? I know you are not a proud person, like an arrogant person, you're humble, but I want you to tell people so they know who they're talking to. Tell us some about your biggest successes that you've had. Do not be shy.
I can't. Actually says I don't I don't have the biggest success. When I look into any company's business, how their supply chain is set up, and I'm very serious about this. I look at any given business and see how they choose their supplier, the supplier location, how they invest in their tooling, how they plan their inventory, how they ship their product. I see a pile of money in their supply chain. So my goal is to bring home some of the money, help improve the profitability of the business, and help the business to be more successful. It's really the business success, not much of my personal success. So it really come down to how I can help the business. And lately I have been sharing some of the sourcing knowledge on the YouTube channel. If I can help so many people to improve their sourcing and their business bottom line, I think that is awesome.
How do you do it? When you look at the supply chain management, and I love how you put it, Yuping, I love how you say you basically try to help them save money, how to improve the cash flow profitability of the business. How do you do that? Like, what are some of the first things you look for in order to save your clients money?
Well, you look at their business model and their supply chain setup. If the business model, for example, right now, is option-based. I don't know the style, the color, the shape they want for their final configuration. But this business I'm in right now promised the customer that we can ship the product within 48 hours. That means my supply chain has to be set up to be as flexible as possible to support the promise that the business is making to the customer. But to have the supply chain to be flexible, if I have to deal with the suppliers have a lead time that is 3 months, 4 months, sometimes even 5 months, that is a big supply chain challenge. So to save money on the supply chain side, I have to find the partners in the supply chain, that those companies are not just willing to be good suppliers. There are so many companies wanting to be your suppliers, right? You can find them, but not so many that are capable to be your partners. What I mean is, when I actually design inventory program with the company, I ask for payment terms. I ask them to expedite productions. They have to be in a position to put out the cash flow to do that. So with my current suppliers, I have suppliers around the world, from Europe, from China, from Taiwan, from Norway, across, the continents. So I have to find those suppliers who can be true partners. Like, really, we have inventory programs, stocking programs to shorten the lead time, so I can offset some of the cash flows that I have to put out to run the business, and negotiating on the payment terms. So these are true partners. Once the supplier is selected and they are the partners, I really putting a lot of effort to cultivate that deep trust.
Right.
So, I take supply chain seriously. When I look at, go into a business, I do, I specifically design, this is the supply chain setup I want to support this business model.
What would you say, Yuping, are the biggest challenges that Amazon sellers or e-commerce sellers run into when they're trying to source a product? Like, what are the most common ones that you're seeing in your experience?
You mean besides the language barrier and cultural difference?
That's really good. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that's huge. When I went to China my first time, it was so helpful just being there and trying to understand the differences in culture and the misunderstandings. That's huge. Then we went a second time, and we trained a whole bunch of people in sourcing, and we went through Yibu China, and that was also educational. Each time we go, it just reminds me it really is a different way of thinking, and people assume they're on the same page, but maybe not. So yeah, whatever you want to share, like what would you say? Like what do you experience that, e-commerce sellers, Amazon sellers, these are usually some of the biggest challenges that they're running into?
Well, at the beginning, you have those challenges, but over time you'll learn, right? Your supplier's communication style, and you can also learn from your own communication what is causing the supplier to misunderstood you. So I specifically emphasize on the 1, 2, 3 style. You don't, mingle your questions in one sentence. You list it out like 1, 2, 3. So they understand your points and they answer each one of them, because they are trained going through schools. The teacher always say, answer these questions 1, 2, 3. So besides that, I think at the beginning you overcome the communication challenges, but over time, I think most new beginner sellers, in summary, they are just facing this pile of unknowns. They don't know who is the supplier. They don't know if they wire the money to China, if they're going to get, any protection. And, these are the fears that facing for the new sellers in general.
Do you recommend the 30-70 or 40-60 rule where, so I'm selling Amazon and I'm going to send part of the money over to them, wire it through my bank, international transfer, then they build it, then we have a product inspection, then I send the rest after it's approved? Do you recommend that kind of approach, or do you have any other approaches that you think are helpful when it comes to payments?
There's no other choices at the beginning. You don't have any leverage. They don't trust you.
Yeah.
So, for the sellers, I would recommend you really absolutely 100% have to do 3 things. Number 1 is you really, really, really know your supplier. When you choose a supplier, it's like getting a business marriage. You really do need to know who they are, what they do, where they are at. If I ask you, where's your supplier, don't wishy-washy and don't know where my supplier is. You need to pinpoint exactly where their factory is and what their key competency in terms of manufacturing your product. And before you make the down payment, the terms and conditions on the purchase order, I strongly recommend everybody think about the consequences and spelled out all the terms and conditions. That's like a, marriage prenup for your business marriage. Spelled out as clearly as possible, so that when there's a dispute or a disagreement, what is the settlement is going to be. or how to resolve those. And before you make the final down payment, I would say, you know, everybody agree that every single shipment you need to have a final inspection. So if you wanted to conquer the fear, you must do three things. Know your supplier.
Another question for you, Yuping, and thank you again for being here today. And by the way, before we continue, Yuping, if someone wants to learn more about what you do, what website do you want them to go to? Or any place?
I just started the YouTube channel to share the sourcing knowledge with people. Is a Good Life Warrior, sourcing warrior on the YouTube channel. They can find me there.
Awesome. Good Life Sourcing Warrior. I love that you call it a warrior. As you may know, that's what we call our members. What happens if we're trying to find a supplier to build a product that is not on the market? And so you go to one supplier and they say, oh, we can't make that. Another supplier, we can't make that. And let's just say it's made out of leather like a wallet, but it's a different kind of material. So would you recommend going to a supplier who builds products out of the same material, even though they haven't built this one? What are your thoughts on that? How do you do that?
Yeah, every day actually I have similar challenges with the product that supplier never built it.
Yeah.
So if for the Amazon sellers, I would recommend break down the bill of material, find that unique thing, find that unique component within your bill of material that nobody has it. So find a supplier who has a similar product, similar product, and ask them to customize. I think, like, in the case of a leather wallet, yeah, I would go with the supplier who has a similar product and ask them to customize. But first, you don't have to overwhelm them with the whole product. You just find that unique part.
That really makes sense. And I think that's very helpful. And hearing you saying that still is a challenge, I think it's encouraging, because some people think, man, if I can't find a supplier, then no one can do it. Yet I think in my mind, there was a day when this wasn't created. There was a day when this wasn't created. I mean, what about a phone? Like, there was a day when no one had created it. So someone had to convince somebody to build it at some point. And obviously there's a way to do that. It's harder, but then you can differentiate better.
Some of the products it's not that difficult. For most of the Amazon sellers product, it's not difficult, because if it's injection molded parts, it's so easy. You can make any shape or form out of injection molding if it's a plastic parts, right? And you just find the product category where your unique components belongs to, find those suppliers to customize a special form or shape for you.
Now, what if selling on Amazon, and this is very common for Amazon sellers, where someone will make what's called an authenticity complaint. So for example, it could be a competitor, they're saying, oh, well, your product isn't, this isn't real leather, for example, or anything. Or it could be someone saying, yeah, this isn't a real product, or it's fake, or it's a fraud. And so what Amazon will do is they'll close the listing temporarily, and they'll say, I need you to supply us with commercial invoices of where you source this product. Now, people struggle with this because they're thinking, okay, if I send invoices from China, will Amazon accept it? Now, a lot of people, they think it's a pro forma invoice, and I know that's not correct.
That's not acceptable.
Right. So my first question is, what do you do when the supplier sends you a commercial invoice, but it's all in Chinese? And most people at Amazon, the frontline staff, they don't read Chinese, so they can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Do you have any other option or suggestions when you need that commercial invoice?
Yeah. So I would recommend anybody, any business, because you are on a prepayment basis, when you make the down payment and the final payment at the 70%, before you make the down payment, I would recommend you to mandate your supplier to render the commercial invoice and the packing list after your final inspection. You know how many they're shipping after a final inspection.
Yeah.
Your defective products are being deducted from the total list, right?
Yeah.
So commercial invoice and packing list are mandated for the customer clearance. So you should mandate your supplier to render that commercial invoice and packing list. For the suppliers who has very little export experience, like you're saying they have only Chinese version of it, you can create commercial invoice and packing list template, ask them to put it on their letterhead, and always use this template to fill out the quantity, weight, and dim, and send it to me before your final shipment so I can pay against it, so I can use it to clear my shipment. And if the Amazon demand for that, you can use, the email directly from your supplier to prove this is not what you manufactured, it's actually from the factory.
Right.
Use that as a proof that is the invoice.
So question on the template. So if the Amazon seller creates a template, they're giving the template to the supplier and the supplier's filling it out on the template. Is that correct?
Let's say you ship 1,000 at this unit cost.
Right.
So you create a commercial invoice. It's a simple Excel.
Mm-hmm.
It's a simple Excel sheet of how many you are shipping, unit cost, and total cost. And that's a commercial invoice. And packing list is almost identical, except it has a weight and dimensions to this load, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a set of documents, commercial invoice and packing list. This set is needed for custom clearance. So you create the template for your supplier. Every single time the shipment quantity may be the same or different.
Right.
All you have to do is to fill in the quantity.
Gotcha.
Right? And then put it on their letterhead and email you a copy. And that's your commercial invoice and packing list.
That makes sense.
Help them out.
Because it has their letterhead, so it's obviously legit
Correct.
for the company, but now it's in English through an Excel sheet. So that makes
Correct.
sense. Yeah. That's really good. And everyone listening, I just encourage you guys, what you just heard is gold. This is one of the big struggles a lot of Amazon sellers will run into. Some will generate their own invoice. Some will buy it from an American supplier and then drop in the number so that Amazon will accept it more likely. Some will send in a PI, which never works because it's very different. A pro forma invoice is not the same as a commercial. So this is really, really good, Yuping.
It's important for you, that if you're importing from overseas,
right,
your freight forwarder need the commercial invoice and packing list to clear the custom. And that is your proof of entry.
Right.
When you actually have a record of your import shipment coming through US custom, your commercial invoice is attached to the value that you're declaring.
Right.
You cannot just randomly give your forwarder a number. They have to use some kind of document to surrender to the US custom.
And the fact that it's already there, it's a matter of leveraging that and connecting that to what Amazon needs. You have that information already. So that makes total sense.
And then the best time to ask for it is after inspection. Make it a mandate. It should be on your terms, conditions on your PO.
And is the reason for that because after the inspection, you know the exact number and all the details, therefore it's going to reflect it accurately? Is that the main reason?
Yes, because commercial invoice is used for their export declaration as well. It needs to be consistent and accurate. A lot of times before inspection, the after inspection quantity, the final shipping quantity could be different. So after the inspection, you can ask the supplier, render the commercial invoice and packing list before I make the final payment. My final payment is going to be against exact shipping quantity and the dollar amount.
Now you mentioned product inspection. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
So there's these ideas out there that all product inspections should be 100%. But I've noticed that a lot of product inspection companies will do maybe 20 to 25%. And their thinking is, well, it's coming off this machine. They have a whole bunch. If you know what 20 to 25% of the products already, then the chances are the rest are going to be fine. So it seems like a waste of time and money to do all of them.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that, Yuping?
100% agree. Because it's based on criticality of your, your product.
Right.
My recommendation is the quality of your inspection result. It depends on the quality of your inspection checklist. So it doesn't matter how many you inspect. If you're inspecting against the wrong criteria or insignificant criteria, it doesn't really matter, right? So your inspection checklist is the key for you to inspect. It doesn't matter 10% or it's 100%. So I always recommend people from the moment you receive your product sample, you should start to document what could go wrong, right? Every iteration of the sample, you start to build out your inspection checklist. In the end, when you have the final inspection checklist, you give a copy to your supplier. Not only you use it for the third party, but also give it to your supplier so they can do the internal inspection. They can use it as a quality checklist as a reference. And then you use the same checklist with the third party to check. It doesn't matter whether it's 10%, 20%, it depending on how confident with your supplier. If it's the first time, you can up the percentage. Don't listen to the third party recommendation. It's really your business, right? You know.
You're paying the money.
Yeah, exactly. And the second time, if the first time passed, and you can, decrease the inspection ratio, but you still do it.
What do you recommend, Yuping, where people go to find a product inspection company? Do you have any ones that you recommend? Is that a service that you offer? Where do people start? Because people get scared, like, okay, I'm here in the US or in the UK, and they haven't been to China, they don't have any connections. What recommendations would you have on that?
I personally don't offer inspection service. I don't do sourcing. I don't do inspection. I only share my knowledge with people. There's so many companies. I think within your own student group, there's people use different agencies. I don't particularly recommend anyone, but I think overall they're quite good, like Asian Inspection. If you really up for a level, SGS is pretty good, but they charge a lot more. Their rate is SGS.
SGS, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So like Asian Inspection, these third parties are everywhere. There are some individuals can do that too.
Right. Yeah, this is really good. And it's funny you say that because for a while we would recommend inspection companies, ones that I had used that I liked, but sometimes they can change and sometimes they get worse or better. So finally we stopped recommending them and said, look, reach out to the community, ask who's working for you right now. And so far it's been really helpful.
It's because I think different inspection agency has a different key competencies.
Right.
And a different inspector has a different knowledge set. I mean, if you are doing an electronic product or you're doing a fabric product, different company has a different key competencies.
Very true, because they know what to look for, or maybe they don't know what to look for.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yuping, everybody, Yuping is a wealth of knowledge. And I want you guys to know something, and it's hard to know just in one short conversation. Yuping is a joyful person. I don't know how else to say it. She's joyful. The first time I met her, she's just smiling and happy, and like life just flows from her. And this is why I'm so excited. She's going to be with us in Los Angeles, March 8 to 10, talking about these kinds of things we're discussing. And if you're sourcing any products from anywhere, you're going to get to a point where you have to get help from a supplier. So she's going to be speaking on how to lead a supplier. And I like how you put that, Yuping. Lead a supplier. In other words, taking ownership, leadership, and find more profit in sourcing. Now, there's one last question I have to ask you, and this, I saved the best for the last. And I would love to know your thoughts on this. And I might have a few follow-up questions on it. Yuping, it is so difficult sometimes for Amazon sellers to know if they're dealing with an actual factory or a trading company. And I know sometimes it's not as simple as that. Sometimes it is a factory that in some things they act as a trading company, in some things they don't. I get that. And I know that the Western mindset is very different from a factory than if you go to China and look at them. That might be, a very old room, dingy lights, but a state-of-the-art machine in the middle that makes amazing products. And it's hard for people to understand that. My question is, number one, what recommendations do you have, Yuping, for finding a factory who's not selling on Amazon and is not also a trading company? In other words, they say they're a factory, but then they're really working through someone else and they're upping the price. Do you have any recommendations for really finding a factory you can trust? They don't sell on Amazon, so you're not competing with them, yet you're paying them to sell your product. What are your thoughts on that?
It's difficult to find those factories for everyone.
Yes.
For everyone.
Yeah, agreed.
So for me to find out if the supplier is selling on Amazon or if they're a trading company is actually quite easy because I speak Chinese. I will ask them a few questions. Kind of a cough out. But I think in general, if you suspect this supplier is selling on Amazon, if you suspect this supplier is a trading company, just ask very firm and tough questions. If you are suspecting the supplier is selling on Amazon, send them the picture from Amazon, your competitor's product listing. Tell me now, is this your product? Is this your listing? We're going to become partners. We need to be upfront right now. And because we're going to find out, right? And you ask and ask again, right? If I suspect my supplier is a trading company, I will tell them, you need to tell me now if you are the factory, because I'm sending my team to do a factory audit.
Yes. Ooh, that's good. Oh, that's
Tell
good.
me now, right? Because
I love it.
you just be open and just be very firm. Tell me now, because we're going to find out.
Right.
So that's just the beginning. As if I'm doing the product research, you know, trying to find the direct factories is tough for many beginning sellers because the only source of information they have is from the online platforms like Alibaba, right? So I have to do very tough screening, ask these tough questions, so to screen out all these traders and the companies who's selling on Amazon. So, or I can hire people like, people from Upwork or sourcing agent to find the direct factories. But the only point I wanted to make here is that if you do that, make two conditions to be very clear. Number one, once you find the direct factories, hand over the supplier contact. And two is the supplier contact need to speak English so you can start to communicate directly. Otherwise, you will just end up having a collection of Chinese factories who you cannot communicate. Right. So when you hire people to do that, you need to, kind of have a clear expectations of what you want. So as the business grow, I think it get easier. You can fly to the trade shows either here or in China. There's so many Asian suppliers. Chinese suppliers are coming to the US, are coming to Europe to attend the trade shows too.
Yes, a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go to the trade show even if it's not the product you're selling now. I think it's always so good to establish the connection and to get your network set up.
Yeah. Just one follow-up question on this, Yuping. Do you ever use 1688 to find a supplier? Why not?
I mean, the suppliers, so here's the hurdles for many American sellers. For me, it's okay. I mean, I can use the 168. I'm saying no because it's really hard to recommend those factories selling there. There's two reasons. One is the quality could be different. Number two is they rarely speak English.
I know.
And you have to go through people who speak English. So after you go through the hoops to pay for someone to communicate through a third party, after all the time you're saving this little bit, might as well just do the homework and finding the suppliers yourself from factories who can speak English to begin with. And nowadays, if they don't have export license, exporting out of China is getting stricter and stricter over time. In terms of custom declaration. So it's good to work with decent factories. It's worthwhile to find good partners.
Yeah, this is very good. Yuping, thank you so much for being here today and for answering these questions. And everyone watching, I hope that this adds a ton of value to you. Again, I want to share, you have an opportunity to meet Yuping, talk to her, shake her hand in Los Angeles, March 8 to 10. She will be there and she'll be speaking on how to lead a supplier and find more profit in sourcing. And if you're looking to get more material like this, she has a whole lot of videos. Just go to YouTube and search Good Life Warrior, and you're going to find more about that. Yuping, thank you again. Is there anything last you want to share with the followers who are watching? Anything at all? Any tips?
Well, I think it's in general, sourcing is a bit challenging but tedious, but I think if you go through the sourcing process, it's really the best training ground for many entrepreneurs who wanted to rise up to become successful, resilient CEOs. You can do product research, you can do PPC, product launch right behind a computer, but when you do sourcing, you start to interact with a different culture, different business. You really, test out a lot of your key capabilities. And once you go do it once, you will be so successful.
Thank you so much, Yuping, for being here today.
Thank you.